Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome back to a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Oxide. This series was recommended to me a couple of times over the last few days, so shout out to those of you that reached out to me on Twitter and mentioned that this series is awesome. It's the Grand Finals of the ESL Open Cup, number 15, the European Grand Finals that is. I'll go over that in just a little bit, but I'm excited for it because both of these players are some of my favorites in all of StarCraft 2. So spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide and playing with the orange Zerg drones from Ukraine, we have none other than Bly. And his opponent in the opposite corner with the blue Terran SCVs from France, we're looking at none other than Clem's main command center. So actually a lot of the games that I've been casting this year are from the ESL Open Cup. So as you may have already guessed, it's from ESL, it's an open cup, so everyone can sign up. But since it's a weekly thing, pro gamers will actually sign up for it very regularly. So I think it's $200 for the first place prize, $100 for the second place prize, and then I think it's $50 for third and fourth. Don't quote me on any of that, but it's a weekly tournament that's being put out over in Europe, in North America, and then also over in Korea. And I think it's awesome. A lot of the games that I've been casting this year are from that tournament series. So shout out to ESL for continuing this Open Cup. I think it's awesome. We had a lot of these back in the early days of StarCraft 2, and then over time they sort of faded away. But I'm glad to see that they are once again going strong. So in order to get to the Grand Finals, most notably, Bly ended up defeating Neep. So he took down Neep 3-1, which is very impressive. And Clem took down Lambo 3-1. Alrighty. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with both of these players, right? Clem plays very standard StarCraft 2. However, standard in a good way. He's one of the highest ranked Terran players in the world, one of the very best, and he's very good at just simply not dying to stupid stuff and then out-microing and out-macroing his opponent. Bly, on the other end, I mean, he's very capable of playing a macro-oriented style, but he's a very tricksy Zerg, and I think, or Zerg rather, not Zerg, Zerg. He's very good at mixing it up and playing hyper-aggressively. Now, there was a time when he was only ever playing macro, but there it is. Look, in game number 1, he's already skipping out link speed, and he's decided to go for like a 2 minutes and 10 seconds Roach Warren. This is not a standard build. We'll see how this is gonna go. Well, it's probably a standard build actually for Bly. Bly is very good at playing this strange style. Now, Clem does have the Reaper over here, so if he gets lucky, he might be able to scout it out. But if Terran doesn't spot this, he's actually gonna be in a little bit of trouble. Now, there is a factory coming up. There's also a tech lab, but usually with a double barracks opener like this, as a Terran player, you go for the Stimpack upgrade rather than going for a siege tank. This is very difficult for the Terran player to figure out. Already, look at Brenda over here. She's guarding this little jump-up pad. So if the Reaper decides to get adventurous, which it may very well end up doing right now. Yeah. Ooh, if he gets in, that's a disaster. Oh, he gets in. Oh, Queen from the Natural. Walked up to the high ground, and the Roach Warren goes unscouted. Alrighty. Here we go. I think in a... If you were to, like, roll the statistics, right, and you were to, like, guess what the series end would be, I think 9 times out of 10, Clem should probably be the favorite. That being said, Bly has a tendency to catch very high-level opponents off guard with completely unexpected builds, and this may very well be one of them. Clem is sitting here. He's playing relatively safely, right? The thing is, this would be a good timing, that Stimpack upgrade, against, like, a 3.5-minute Roach Warren. This was a ridiculously early one. There is a bunker at the front though, and it is gonna finish here relatively soon. I think that might just be more than enough Marines, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think there's really gonna be that much damage that will be done here. Behind this though, Bly was already droning here for a while as well. He does have an Overlord providing high ground vision, so the Ravagers can rain their corrosive biles relatively easily. But I mean, I don't think that this is gonna get too much damage done. Nah. Now one thing you don't have to, or you don't want to forget, there you go, as a Zerg player, is go Metabolic Boost here. Metabolic Boost, the link speed, is one of those upgrades that, if you don't get it early on, you sometimes forget about it, which sounds really dumb, but it takes a surprisingly long time to finish if you don't pick it up early. So he does start it up right now. This game is just going to progress as normal, I guess. Oh, that's a little bit of a, a dangerous corrosive bile there, hitting the Overlord. But it's mostly just... I guess what happens in these kind of scenarios, right, is that it's Bly's game to play, right? So he throws opponents off of their match, and then he plays from a scenario that is probably uncomfortable for them, more so than for himself. So So even though this is one of those builds that I think is technically inferior, it comes down primarily to how well Clem can actually follow this up. Now, Clem, obviously, no stranger to StarCraft at all. He's very good at just playing the follow-up here. So no third command center, actually, surprisingly enough, just yet. He decides to go for an extra barracks instead. This is a build that we saw, I think it was Beyond that was playing this as well. Where basically you go for a 16 Marine draw. Oh my god. Well, almost 16 are left over. I thought for a second like 5 of these were gonna die. It's a strong build. You basically hit it around the same time as a 16 Marine drop, but then with more than 16 Marines. Assuming, you know, that we didn't lose a bunch of those Marines earlier. Link speed has finished up though. There's enough Roaches and Ravagers here available as well. I'm pretty sure that this will be deflected and the third base will stay alive. Already though, a little bit of a different dynamic. So the third CC starts up right at this point. This is Clem playing ridiculously safe, right? Going for a double barracks opener, going for a blind bunker at the front, even now following it up with more bunkers, super late third CC. This is definitely Clem playing a much more safe approach. He does have a lot of barracks though. It's triple barracks production already at this point. I don't really see the Zerg player breaking through this. There's a siege tank over there in the back. I mean, I might be wrong. Oh my, there's way too many. Way too many Marines. Right? I mean, unless he eats corrosive biles, but there's no way. Yeah. Bly at this point recognizes the situation as well, and he decides to drone behind it. But this is getting dangerous now, because he's been behind economically for quite some time. And Clem can go for a lethal timing attack right when +1 infantry weapons finishes up. It's going to make these Marines so much stronger. Or he can just grab a couple of those Ravagers right now. There you go. Good micro here. Stutter stepping on those Marines. There's double Evo chamber coming up here for Bly, but I don't think you can really afford to get those upgrades started here. Alrighty. I feel like you just keep pushing, honestly, here if you're Clem. One downside as well of being stuck on Roaches and Ravagers mostly is that if the Terran goes for some drop harass or multi-pronged aggression in general... Oh my god, he's got 3 tanks. There's a 4th one spawning, actually. I was gonna say, like, Roaches and Ravagers have a hard time catching up to this kind of shenanigans. Zerglings look like they want to go in for the counterattack, but there are way too many Terran units over here. You don't even really need to, like, siege up those tanks. I mean, you can, but you don't really need to. Those tanks do a ridiculous amount of damage unsieged as well. But obviously now they deal that nice amount of splash. Zerglings are going in for the counterattack. Looks like Clem has actually sent pretty much all of his units across. Still though, the third base of the Zerg is already gone. And as long as he cleans up these like 10 Zerglings, he should be fine. Continued aggression right now by Clem. He's 40 supply up on his... Oh, 30 supply up right now. But he's very far ahead here. He's secured the third base. I mean, whenever Terran players are a base up on Zerg, you know things are not looking so well. Is he gonna really drop on top of all of this? Oh my god! That is just straight up bad manners right there by Clem. That is him saying, get out of my game. And there we go. Game number 1 goes in favor of the Frenchman. I would have loved it if Clem decided to drop a couple mules with that drop at the end as well. Just drop a couple mules on your opponent's army. We don't really see a lot of BMing anymore these days. So BMing, by the way, for those of you unfamiliar, it means bad mouthing or bad manners. It's usually tongue-in-cheek, right? Like, there's some people that are obviously taking it way too far, but I was a big fan, actually. Whenever in, like, the GSL Codes, for example, you would get very far ahead in, like, a best-of-7 series, and then you see your opponent dropping a bunch of mules on your army just to be a jerk to you, just to force you out of the game. Just showing you that they don't even need the resources that those mules can mine. I've always been a big fan of that. And I actually do think if it's like a best-of-5 series, it's a legitimate strategy, right? Like, if you drop a bunch of mules on your opponent, it may very well tilt them. We don't really see it anymore in 2020, but it would be kind of neat to maybe bring that back just a little bit more. Anyhow, I think game number 1 showed one thing to Bly very clearly, and that is that Clem is going to be playing a very safe series. At the very least, he did in the very first game. That was about the safest approach that you can, like, you know, play as a Terran player. Couldn't really be much safer than that. I wonder if he's once again going to go for the double barracks opener. I know Oxide in particular is a pretty good map for it. Just because you can still get that Reaper Scout going. Actually, I think we saw Bjorn playing a little bit of a different variant of that build. He skipped that Reaper entirely and went straight into a reactor instead. So that's not going to be the case here for Clem. But basically, I think Beyond hit at like the 5-minute mark, so about 10 seconds earlier than a 16 Marine drop, with, you know, like 20 Marines and 2 Medivacs and Stimpak. Pretty insane. It creates a ridiculously strong timing attack. Once again, Clem, I don't think we're really going to be seeing him cut any corners. Alrighty. So my eyes here are mostly on Bly. I would love it if he just decided to play a standard, straightforward macro game. I would love to see where he's currently at as far as that goes, you know? It's been a little while since we've seen a game where Bly opens up normal. Already, this Overlord positioning is also pretty neat. So there's this funny little Overlord meta going on in StarCraft 2, so there's going to be some Reaper harassment, okay? I don't think he's going to get too much damage done, but... Basically, when maps first come out in StarCraft 2, Zerg players will figure out the optimal position for their Overlords relatively quickly, right? So on this map, more often than not, I'm going to look away from this for a little bit. I don't think it's going to get too much damage done. More often than not, it's going to be this little pillar over here, so you can oversee your opponent's natural. However, if you set your Overlord like this, you can keep it alive while simultaneously checking for the structures and timing of structures of your opponent on the top of that ramp. So this is pretty much always going to be the spot where, you know, Terran players will be able to put down their different, you know, tech. And Bly is going to probably be able to get a relatively easy scout there. Now, obviously, it comes at the cost of losing vision at the front, but I don't think it's going to be that significant. I like it. This is actually pretty neat. So I think this Overlord may very well be heading for that little pillar over there. Just mixing it up a little. Now, once again, we do have that double barracks opener right here from Clem. You can go into the reactor here very shortly as well on the factory. Then do the big switcheroo with the starport and start producing 2 Medivacs. And then we arrive once more at that 16 Marine drop that he's very, very fond of, apparently. Now, already... Oh my god, I wasn't even paying attention. There's a lair already done here for Bly. And he's actually gone for a freaking Nidus Worm. And how quick was that lair? Oh my god. Hold up. Can I just go back for a little bit? So I was so happy talking about, you know, the Overlord Scout. I thought I had some cool information here that I... Oh my god. I completely missed the fact that he started off a lair before link speed, before he even produced the queen from there. Like, I made one for a little bit, probably on autopilot, canceled the queen, and then went straight into a lair. That's insane. Alright, so back to where we were at. The Reaper goes into the main, figures out obviously the timing of that lair, sees that there's no link speed, sees that there's no wiggle in the spawning pool either. He doesn't know precisely what's going on, but he did spot double gases over here. He'll probably YOLO it here into the natural if he can. Yep, there we go. Sees the Nidus Worm. I don't know if he saw the Roach Warren, but he doesn't really need to. Seeing the Nidus Worm is really the most important part. So immediately, we see a cancel on the reactor, and he goes for a tech lab on the starport here instead. Viking comes up as well. This one is meant to kill the Overlord. It's going to provide that high ground vision to put up the Nidus inside of, I think, the main base. There we go. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, that's so sexy. He's expecting it to go up on the right-hand side of the main base, but Bly over here knows a little nuke where the opponent is not capable of seeing the worm. That's actually insane. It's in the most obvious location ever, but since it is so obvious, you don't really expect it anymore. This is an awful lot of units. Now, Stimpak is going to finish up. The problem here is that most of those Zerg units are on top of the factory. A siege tank is what is truly needed over here to defend this. If you can, like, kill the siege tank as it pops out, that's gonna be absolutely fantastic. Still, though, the queens actually end up getting surrounded here by a bunch of SCVs. Reinforcing roaches are coming up as well. There's the siege tank. It sieges up right away. Another Nidus Worm goes down on the low ground, so he wants to go down over there. And you know what? 14 SCVs. Is that enough? I don't know if that's enough, to be honest. No, I don't think it is. If you look at the worker count right now, we're talking 26 to 23 drones. Or sorry, 26 drones to 23 SCVs. Point being is that Terran is pretty much even here on the work account, but obviously they have those beautiful yellow mining machines and also that tech advantage. Stimpak is a ridiculously powerful upgrade at this point in the game, and, you know, once again, even though Clem didn't really see this until the last possible moment, he ends up defending it just fine. And I think it's due to the fact that he's playing the 16 Marine drop. If this would have been a more conventional 1-1-1, so 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport, rather than 2 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport, I'm pretty sure Bly would have shown up here, and it would have been like 4 Hellions, or 6 Hellions, and then like a couple Marines, no Stimpak, and maybe a Liberator, right? Like, he would have shown up there with a very powerful timing attack. This is going to create, I think, a bit of a problem in the rest of the series for Bly. Even if he ends up winning this game still, right? I don't think you can really go ahead and play those cheeky builds very easily against someone like Clem if he's opening up with the double barracks. Now, once again, there is another Nidus going up. The SCV tried building a supply depot on top of the Nidus. There's a couple of roaches inside of this as well. Oh, you know what? Most of the Marines are now on the other side of the map. Queens and roaches are ready to defend. There's quite a few roaches over here in the Nidus Worm too. Ah, there's still a Marauder. Yeah, there's a Marauder. There's a Siege Tank. I think this should be fine. And this is one of the problems that I think Bly may be running into quite regularly. He's extremely good at picking off, I would say, like mid-tier pro gamers. I know that's a bit of a funny term. But when you're playing against some of the very best, isn't this just what will happen every single time? Like, Clem truly is one of the very best. And even though, like, Bly is trying to throw him for, you know, for an aggressive strategy, he's trying to, like, throw a wrench right here in this strat that Clem is playing. Like, Clem doesn't seem to be too flustered. He went into this series with the right mindset, and it seems like he's absolutely tearing a hole in his opponent so far. Now, even though the defense right here hasn't been perfect, though, don't get me wrong. He lost 23 SCVs here in total. We are now still stabilizing at a relatively even game, and I think in a relatively even game, it's pretty much always Clem that comes out ahead. I may be wrong, but we'll find out together. In the meantime, we did see Bly teching up, but he's stuck on Roach Ravager, right? And Roach Ravager, it's just a little awkward. Once again, there's a Nidus Worm going up in the main. Clem playing a little greedy here, not actually scouting for any creep tumors or sniping any of those. Maybe he really expected his opponent to not continue this harassment, because when you look at this, yeah, he probably shouldn't have. Decides to snipe the Nidus Worm, so there's no retreat path for these roaches either. And those units are going to get very easy. Yeah, those are going to be very easy pickings. So if you look right now at the resources lost, right? Look at that cost efficiency right here of Terran. How much damage do those siege tanks have? Well, this one only has 5 kills, but it must have done a lot of splash as well. There's 3 siege tanks right now, and I feel like we're once again leading into a similar scenario that we were in the previous game. Terran can go for a timing attack right when that +1 infantry weapon finishes up. He's got 3 siege tanks just like last time around, and well, the unit count is going to be ever so slightly differently. As long as he deals with any counterattack Nidus Worms, he should be fine. So there we go. Deja vu from the previous game. The Terran player once again marches to the other side. There's already... What are you even doing? There's already an infestation pit going up, so Bly is thinking about going Hive? Or Swarm Hosts? I don't know. I don't think you want to go Swarm Host against Stimp Marines. Maybe Infestors, but Infestors kind of suck. Oh, that's a nasty position as well for that siege tank. I've got a feeling that this is going to just be a walkover right now here for Clem, right? Look at that. He doesn't even need the siege tanks. The Marines alone will be enough to clean all of this up. There we go. GG is cold. Quick 2-0 right here for Clem. Alrighty. Game number 3 takes us to Death Aura. Apparently, we still have Bly playing with the orange colors, but Clem decided to switch it up. Pretty sure he wasn't playing red last game, right? I think he was playing blue. Most of the time, by the way, tournaments have pretty specific rules on what colors you are allowed to play. It doesn't seem to matter too much, I guess, in, you know, in, for example, Terran versus Zerg or Protoss versus Terran or something along those lines. But in mirror matchups, obviously, if you have, like, red versus orange or, like, pink versus purple, which we have seen a couple times in the past, it creates a little bit of a... Like, for the pro gamers, it doesn't really matter too much, right? They know what to go for. But especially if you're just watching these games casually and you glance at the screen and everything is, like, a different shade of pink, it's a little difficult to figure out what's happening. Anyways, I guess in Terran versus Zerg, it shouldn't matter too much. Now, once again, Bly, are you for real? Bly, actually, he's got something in mind. I love it. So, maybe there's a weakness that I'm currently not aware of when a Terran player plays a 2-1-1. So, when they go double barracks. I'm not entirely sure, but I think Bly does. I think Bly does know something that we are unfamiliar with. He's probably anticipating right now that Clem is once more going to be going for the double barracks opener. Would not be surprised at all. Clem will likely go for an SCV scout once more. Reaper as a follow-up command center on the low ground, so this is very standard. This is exactly what Clem has been doing this entire series so far. Second OV over here. So Clem is gonna get to the other side of the map and find out that there is nothing. 2 drones in each of the gas geysers, I'm assuming? Okay, no. Second or third drone right now joins the first one too. Is it gonna be a quick roach warren? Like, if you go double gas, I guess it has to be a quick roach warren, right? And then roaches and ravagers? We'll see. Alright. So what's Clem's response going to be? He sees the lack of natural. A little bit of indecisiveness initially, but he decides to check the main base here regardless. Reaper's gonna scout around here and we'll figure out that indeed a hatchery has been planted down over at the third base. Roach warren was spotted, double gas was spotted as well, so Bly is definitely gonna be going for some sort of roach or ravager shenanigans. Was there a cancel? I think there was a cancel actually on the marine to go straight into a reactor instead. Bunker on the low ground, factory as a follow-up, second gas right now as well. So command center, I think the command center is going to finish. That's actually really critical here for Clem because that one provides a ton of supply. A command center, I mean, yeah, you can use it for mining, but you also basically view it as a massive supply depot. It gives you a lot of additional supply to work with. Without it, he would be in a little bit of trouble. Here's the queen spawning. So what do you do with this queen? Do you go... He actually went second overlord too. I think that's to provide high ground vision. I think he wants to go creep tumor with this queen. Yeah. He's not injecting. Second queen comes up as well. Roaches are being produced here. Okay, can he kill the tumor? I think he will. Yeah, nicely done. Even gets away with the Reaper. Okay, never mind. Brilliant control there by Clem, all things considered. So there's a couple roaches available right now. There's a lot of gas in the bank too, so I think he has to go Ravagers. Actually hitting a bit of... Oh no, did he hit a supply block? What? Oh no, the classic 36 out of 36 supply block. Kind of uncharacteristic right here for Bly. Shouldn't matter too much because I think he needs a little bit more, but he probably misses out on like one wave of corrosive biles. Bunker on the high ground here as well. Keep in mind, in this kind of scenario, Zerk is gonna be forced to only make units, right? Terran in this scenario can make SCVs and are teching units at the same time. I mean, Zerk can kind of do that, but not realistically. So you might cut a couple SCVs here and there, but we've already seen a few of them on the production tab. So the longer that this goes on, the better it's gonna be for Clem, because he's mining more than his opponent and he's got more workers as well, although a bunch of them, I guess, are on idle right here on that low ground. Love the fact, actually, that there's a Cyclone killing the Overlords. Brilliant stuff. That means that Bly cannot see the high ground anymore, and therefore landing corrosive biles is gonna be a lot more difficult. I don't know exactly what the number of corrosive biles is. I think it was 7? To be able to, like, kill one of those bunkers with one volley. Needs to be very careful, though. Ooh, he really wanted to grab that. Okay, he's gonna be able to kill the bunker here because he forced those SCVs to build, to back up. Without high ground vision, though, this is kind of tricky to get to. All right, so the natural will be abandoned right now by the Terran player. There's a tech lab coming up on a starport, so that means that Banshees are a likely follow-up as well. There's a siege tank coming up after the 2 Cyclones. Love the Cyclones, actually. Cyclones are so good. I wonder if there's enough, though, for the Terran player. I mean, it's going to be a while until a Banshee will come out, and even then, there's still 2 Queens. There we go. That bunker is dead. Second bunker can certainly be picked off as well, but I think the position of that is just right. So the Ravagers can't actually land the corrosive biles without having to be, or without being, like, near the top of that little ramp. Nice control there. Once again, picks up a low HP unit. Siege tank is done, though. That siege tank positioning I don't agree with. I feel like the siege tank has to be, like, over here. This one's relatively easy to pick up right now. So 9 drones is a follow-up, by the way. So Bly is gonna expand behind this. SCV that was scouting earlier still checks out the low ground expo here. Almost feel like blocking that when an NG bait would have been a correct choice, but a little hard to say. Okay, yeah. So Bly is actually abandoning the plan right now. Oh my god, I actually didn't realize that this is where he was already mining too. I don't think these are gonna be able to mine for that long, but... So he's trying to spread creep backwards right now. Normally we go from the Zerg's natural towards the Terran's natural, but right now we're doing it the other way around. There's even a Spore Crawler coming up, so he really plans on mining this. I thought that these drones would run back. I thought he was gonna give up on that expansion, but I guess not. This is so sick though. So Terran can't actually land their command center when there's creep, right? Which is a big deal. You can do that in co-op, but you can't do that in multiplayer. Banshee and Cloaking Field, though, is gonna finish. Second Banshee, that is. He needs a Spore Crawler at home, too, Bly. Well, I mean... Or you can just keep being aggressive over here. The best defense, I guess, is the offense, right? Yeah, if you keep being aggressive, you should be able to force a couple of those units over here too. Love the fact that he's going Raven. Raven is one of the most underutilized units in the game, but that's actually a really good sign that, that Clem is still thinking straight in this game. You need to kill all of this creep here at some point, so the Raven makes a ton of sense. Floating field is done though for these Banshees. There's 3 siege tanks, so there's no way that Bly is actually going to be able to break this. He's just buying time. Either that or he... No way. Really? Does he really think he can break this? He's making tons of Zerglings. 5 more Ravagers? This seems so greedy. I guess if the Queens are in the... Queens in the front, maybe? Like, Queens can soak up quite a lot. No, here we go. He just decides to pull the trigger right now. Corrosive Balls are going down on as much of this army as possible. But that was... questionable. If you would have connected there with the Marines, I guess it would have been fine. But Clem's way too good for that. There's now 4 siege tanks. There's almost more siege tanks than Ravagers, dude. No, no way. Just back off. I guess he's just really trying to buy some time. But, casting Bly games is always a little crazy as well, because you never actually know what he's thinking about. Like, is he really thinking this is a good situation right now to continue pushing? Apparently so. The problem here that I'm looking at, right, is that we technically have 3 base Terran, and that's fine, or 3 base Zerg, but he's got very low amounts of economy. Now, one thing to keep in mind, actually, and that is something worth noting, is that if Bly can successfully contain his opponent for like 5 more minutes, the main base will run out of money. Like, there's not gonna be SCVs over there that can actually mine anymore. Because the mineral patches will just disappear. There is going to be a point in this game where Terran is actually going to be forced to get out of their natural expansion. We'll actually hold that thought, because right now we have the Zerg player once again committing. Corrosive Balls are going down. That's the 3rd siege tanks, or 3rd siege tank rather being picked up. One on the high ground was killed too. And actually, you know what? Oh my god! Bly is breaking through this army. What I thought was going to be a near impossible feat is now happening. That's so many SCVs. Oh my god, he actually did that? What in the world? I was thinking maybe he was trying to soft contain his opponent, because at some point Terran's gonna have to break onto the creep. But Bly's like, nah, don't worry, I got this. I think every Zerg player out there has pushed into siege tanks before and lost everything. It's like a rite of passage. I don't know how he didn't just lose pretty much everything. That's actually insane. Really good stuff. Alright. Queens, Ravagers, and Zerglings. Apparently that's the name of the game. The Banshees, by the way, I think... Oh no, there's one. Where is it? Oh, it's over here somewhere. Oh, it's right there. They never actually have seen the other side of the map, so he researched Cloak, but hasn't actually gotten any value out of it, unless he cancelled it, but I don't think he did. No, he didn't. Love the fact, by the way, that Clem decided to go Combat Shields rather than Stimpack first. Combat Shield is such a good upgrade. Very underrated by new players, actually. It's like 10 more health for your Marines. It's really sick. All of a sudden, they find a shield in their backpack. Well, here we go. Apparently, wave number 74 for Mr. Bly. Backs up once more, but gets a little bit more damage in. He's inching closer, man. Using the Queens offensively really has been the story of 2020, hasn't it? Like, it's really been... Well, I guess there's been multiple stories for 2020. But as far as StarCraft goes, Queens used to be viewed as like a defensive macro unit. But turns out if you get them on the other side of the map in both ZVP and ZVT, it's pretty amazing. Here we go. Once again, he's smelling blood in the water. I still feel like that's such a dangerous move to make, but... Zerglings are going to town on the SCVs that are desperately trying to mine some minerals on the low ground. It looks like Bly is once again overwhelming the natural expansion, and now that the Terran player is effectively back on one base, what are you gonna do? There's 4 mineral patches remaining over there. Oh my god. Absolute madman Bly, dude. Also want to compliment his Overlord positioning, by the way. Without the Overlords in the right spots, you actually can't see where the siege tanks are, so you can't rain corrosive bowels on them either. So sick. Nice work by Bly. Alrighty, next game will take place on a Lightshade, and you know what? It's It's impossible not to be a Bly fan, okay? I've got a feeling that this is not a drone scout. Nah. He's not playing Protoss either, right? He's not trying to block his opponent's natural expansion. I don't think so either, no. I think we once again have I think a drone heading over in that direction? I mean, it looks that way. Yep. I think he's once again gonna go for the exact same build. I hope so, man. I want to watch more of that. Because that made very little sense in my head. There we go. Once again. Proxy hatchery over at the third base of the Terran player. So this thing really served multiple purposes, right? First off, it creates a spot to reinforce from and to make queens at, right? Which is fantastic. Secondly, it's a point at which you can actually start spreading creep relatively easily towards your opponent's base. And then lastly, it was actually also a place where he mined. He mined for a very long amount of time in that previous game. He was effectively mining 3 bases, whereas Terran, you know, was mining 2. Kinda neat. Now, is Clem gonna SCV scout again in this game and send this SCV to the other side? I think he is, yeah, look at that. So there's already a shift command right there for that SCV. So basically what happens is that this SCV is going to finish that barracks. And then he's going to go straight across. I feel that Clem has to start scouting his side of the map. Like if you... So he's going to send this one straight across again. Because nobody really does this on the ladder. Not regularly anyway. Once again, by the way. Double gas instead of the main base of the Zerg. Roach Warren as a follow-up, I'm assuming. There it is. I think if you were to SCV scout right now, like both of your third bases first and then go across, you could probably build a bunker here. And then, yeah, I think you bunker rush the Zerg's proxy hatch. I think that's what you do. That's actually crazy. Like the word, strange words are coming out of my mouth, man. StarCraft in 2020 is fantastic. I think you're actually supposed to be bunker rushing the Zerg's proxy hatch. Alright. So, Reaper finds the third base. Double gas inside of the main base here once again for the Zerg. He's mining the third here a little bit quicker. Keep in mind, actually, in that previous game, Bly also hit a supply block at 36. Which, yeah, is an uncharacteristically sloppy mistake. I think if he wouldn't have hit that, the push would have even been better. But, he wiggled himself out of that quite nicely. I feel like this SCV actually should, like... Nah, you can't actually do that. Never mind, because the roaches are gonna walk from the natural expansion here. Or, wow, from the main base as well. The Reaper actually gets sniped here by the spawning roaches. And you know what? Oh my god! Oh, dude. Okay, he's gonna finish that, but that is an awful lot of damage already. SCVs will load back into the command center right now and will float on over to the high ground again inside of the safety of that command center plane, I guess. Or helicopter. I don't know how these things fly. But this is a massive problem right now. Massive corrosive bow connects right over there too. One Ravager falls. There's a bunker that's going to finish up here very shortly. But the Cyclone is nowhere to be seen. SCV gets sniped. Bunker goes down because of it. There we go. We're going to game 5. Alrighty, so here we go. Final map in this best of 5 series is Pillars of Gold. And Mr. Bly, send out another drone. Where is this one headed? Okay, the rally point is once again over at the third base, although maybe he's got something else in mind. You know what's most surprising about these kind of builds, and I know I've said this many times before whenever I cast Bly games, is the fact that the top-level Zerg players don't seem to do these sort of builds pretty much ever. I know Sero has been mixing it up a little bit, but like, Clem is genuinely one of the very best Terrans on the planet, right? I mean, if you're being conservative, he's at least top 5. I rate him quite a bit higher than that. The fact that Bly is making this work against someone of the caliber of Clem is pretty nuts. I'm a fan. I wish that we saw, you know, I would love to see a Serral or a Raynor do something like this. Now, you know what I want to see? I want to see Clem actually go for a freaking scout of his third base. I think that's what you need to do. I mean, it's not like it's not holdable if you don't see it, but I think it's much safer. So this SCV... Yeah. So there's actually a change up. Okay, so this time around is the SCV that's building the CC that's not scouting, but instead it's going to build the command center on the low ground, and he's sending out an SCV from the mineral line a little bit sooner. He scouted the third base. Okay, he is going to find the hatch. So I think what you do once you find this is build a bunker. Maybe even council and go marine? Yeah, you go marine. Oh my god. So let me get this straight. Clem is scouting early with an SCV to find a hatchery, a proxy hatchery on his side of the map, and then Bunker rushes the proxy hatch. This is where 2020 StarCraft has arrived. The most hilarious part about this is that all of these units that we have in the early game have been near identical for like the last, I would say like 5-6 years. So this has always been a viable option. I love it. So sick. Alright, so what are you gonna do now, Bly? He's got double gas once again in the main base. Rotorwarn's is coming up as well. He's saving up larva over here. Going up to about 18 drones. Or 17 drones, apparently. I mean, I don't actually know, right? Like, I've never seen this before. I'm assuming 4 Marines in a bunker is gonna be pretty good. I don't actually know. If the hatchery doesn't fall, it's becoming a much more complicated game for Clem to play. If the hatchery does fall, it's gonna become a much more complicated game for Bly to play. Love the fact he pulled a second SCV, actually. That's really neat. Is he gonna run by it? Oh, no. Okay. Thought for a second he was gonna... No, he is! So, there's no CC on the low ground, but I think many Terran players would autopilot to go for the command center on the low ground here. I love the fact, actually, of this bunker, like the position of that bunker. That being said, though, since now Terran is playing one base as well, I don't know how unplayable this really becomes. Like, I think you might be able to transition as a Zerg player here into a macro build. He's got a lot of roaches and ravagers right now, though. Yeah. You can just kill that. Oh my god. He's gonna save the hatch. A lot of SCVs actually have been picked off here, too. I mean, a lot, as in, like, 3. But that's still, like... that's like 10% of his eco. Less, or even more. I love it. Okay, so he's droning behind it. Not over at that low HP hatchery, though. That might be a little bit too ambitious. Instead, he's droning at home. I feel like you might want to pull the drones out of gas and just make a natural expansion as Zerk at this point, but... Anyways, Terran is also realizing what's going on here. He probably figured out, too, that this is going to be a follow-up right now that's going to be relatively macro-focused. This is a disadvantage for sure for the Zerk. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. Very playable. Very playable. SCVs are going to be able to repair that bunker just barely in time. One queen over here. You know what? I think queen to start spreading some creep. I don't like... I don't mind it. I think it's good. Just get a creep tumor and get it all around the map. Force the Terran to go either Raven or a couple scans. That's worth a queen. So he's still mining a ton of gas, though. Like, this indicates to me, at least, that Bly does not feel like giving up this location. Is he really... If he is once again planning on soft containing his opponent... on 2 bases. I would very much so like that, but it also seems a little crazy to me. Is he really gonna do that again? I think he is. Every time I think Bly is going to do something and transition out of it or something, he just doesn't. I should stop making predictions on what his next plan is going to be. I feel like over the years I've gotten pretty good at, like, analyzing games, but the Bly games are a little different. Bly is a little different. In all the right ways. Okay. So where are we going to go now? Like, I'm getting a little anxious just looking at a Zerg player do very little but making roaches and ravagers against a Terran player who's got a high ground advantage, double bunker on the low ground, and a bunch of siege tanks. Like, what in the world are you gonna do? Siege tank on the high ground, by the way, can kill drones or even, I think, the hatchery. He doesn't want to stitch up a tank, though, on that high ground because then it gets corrosive balled down very easily. What? No. That's 1 siege tank. That's 1 siege tank for like 5 ravagers. Yeah, he decides to cancel the add-on right there on the barracks. He just keeps producing more units instead. I think that's the right call. Are you really gonna continue doing this, Bly? These are by no stretch efficient trades, okay? Like, Zerk is gonna be losing a lot more resources here as this game progresses if he keeps trading like this. And besides, Terran is ahead economically as well. So, like, if Terran's ahead economically, They should come out here at an advantage eventually, right? I mean, I'm like I said, I'm gonna stop making calls, but just looking at this game objectively, like, if player A is micro or getting more income than player B, and player B is trading less efficiently than player A should come out ahead, right? Love this. That's really nice. Killing the Overlord there. Ooh. Transfusion just barely keeps the OB alive. Killing the Overlord, obviously, gets rid of that high ground vision. Alright. So, natural expansion has been acquired by Bly. He's gonna go double upgrades, really? Are you gonna go double upgrades? Scan, by the way, on the low ground reveals as well to Clem that indeed a command center, or sorry, a hatchery has been acquired there. Ooh, nice snipe. Did have the energy there for transfuse, but wasn't in time or didn't decide to use it. He just keeps making more Ravagers. This is so insane to me. Is he really gonna push up that ramp again? Bro. There's an Overlord right up there too.
Mineral cluster expended.
Okay. So where are we gonna go from here? Siege tank sieges up on the high ground, okay. There's a lot of bunkers, by the way. Whoa. There's 4 bunkers. 4 bunkers and 5 siege tanks at the 8-minute mark. I don't know if Terrafight Terrans have a face, but it should be this. This is like total Terran anxiety over here, okay? This is a Terran player that's lost one too many times against Bly shenanigans. Actually, there's another tank up there too. So that's 6 siege tanks. Alright, now I like this. Bly actually spots the fact that a medevac has moved out because he spread creep as like a bunch of arms around the map. That is so funny. The fact that he's spreading creep and actually can spot all incoming dropships because of that creep spread is awesome. I love that. Who needs overlords in position? Just get creep on your opponent's side of the map instead. I'm watching this with the biggest smile, by the way. Now, once more, right? As I pointed out, Terran's gonna need to get rid of that creep if they ever want to expand. Davey the drone apparently was built over here. Yeah, he needs to get rid of the creep spread because with all that creep spread over there, the command center is never gonna come up. Now, apparently, Clem decided to smash his piggy banks, got some of the resources back from the bunkers, decided to salvage them. But look at this stuff. He's literally spreading creep backwards from the third base of the Terran player to back to his own bases. It's a reverse creep spread. Now, don't get me wrong, though. I much favor Clem's position in this game. Because, I mean, if you have this many tanks, I almost feel like you go mech, dude. I almost feel like you go mech when you have this many tanks, but I mean, I guess he already has combat shield finishing up right now, and he's got Stimpack done too. So, what do you do as Terran in this situation? I think you max out. I think you don't really have to do much. You don't have to go for a timing attack necessarily. Although I think maxing out is probably going to coincide with 1-1 finishing up too. Yeah, I think he just max out. Burrow comes up here for Bly. Infestation Pit comes up for Bly too. I wondered what he was going to do with the Infestation Pit in one of the earlier games. I have no idea. This has to be Hive then, right? Or maybe Infestors could work, but like, I don't know if I like it. So Terran's getting the third base saturated far before the Zerg player will be able to do so. I mean, there's 12 drones here coming up, but that's mostly because the main base was oversaturated, although actually the same can kind of be said for the Terran player too. But still, Terran has got a superior economy here. And look at the army count here. We're talking 50 army supply for Bly versus 94 right now for the Terran. So there it is, by the way. Tunneling Claws is coming up for the Roaches too. So he's planning on going Tunneling Claws against this. And you know what? Terran players usually are really on point with that, with their like missile turret timing, right? So missile turrets, in case you're unfamiliar, are also detectors. Usually Terrans are going to be very on point. But in this kind of game, since it's so chaotic and you haven't really played it a whole lot, I would not be surprised at all if Clem ends up forgetting a missile turret over here in the mix. So Tunneled Claw Roaches can definitely get work done. There's Infestors, by the way, coming up too, so Bly is investing in these. So, I guess Fungal Growth? Clem scans and sees an Infestor. What do you even... You don't see Infestors in this matchup. Not this early on. I love it. Anyways, triple medevac drop though. If you can kill these Evo Chambers, that would be awesome. He needs... Okay, yeah, okay, alright. The missile turret guy, there he is. Sitting proudly once again. He needs that vision. There's a... Ooh. No council. There's an Infestor burrowed as well. Ooh. He sees the spines right now on those roaches too, so he knows tunneling claw. Oh, actually, that was... Wait, I thought it was an Infestor. Why is that a... Brenda, what were you doing there? I could have sworn that was an Infestor. Huh, that's funny. These games are so silly. I love it. Still though, look at the supply. It feels to me that Bly is dead in the water, but he does not go down without a fight. We know that much. To be fair, one misposition and it can be still something that will be flipped in favor of the Zerg. But I'm looking at this massive Terran army. Oh my god, Fungal Growth, Fungal Growth! Oh, Fungal Growth! Oh, dude, great splits though, actually, by Bly. Once upon a time, Fungal was a root. These days, obviously, it's like a slow instead. If that was a full-on root, I think we would have seen chain Fungals as well, and then Clem would have lost all those Marines. It was one of the comeback mechanics that Zerg had, but... Roaches, roaches, burrow on top of the tanks. There we go, making the tanks do friendly fire. Oh my god. I love this. Look at the tanks. The tanks are gonna... Oh my god. Bly says thank you. Sorry. Still... Still though, that's so much Terran. Yeah, just abandon base and start mining again on the high ground, I suppose. Thing though is that on the back of this, as standard as Clem is following this up, it's looking real good. Clem has got a planetary fortress finishing up at the top section of the map, and I don't really see that getting cleaned up anytime soon. That said, ooh, siege tanks clumped up together. 3 corrosive bow took care of 3 siege tanks, and you know what? Bly manages to push it back. Okay. God, I love StarCraft. I mean, this is still not a situation you can win, though, right? Oh my god, corrosive balls, fungal growths. Can you win this situation? Well, if anyone's gonna do it, it's Bly. Like, if I was in one of my ladder games, right? And I play quite a bit lower up on the ladder than these two. I would have given up probably if I was Bly in this kind of scenario. But if Bly thinks he's got a fighting chance against Clem, it shows that pretty much all of us, right, that are watching this, most certainly have a chance to win against our opponents. Like, I'm probably playing right around, I don't know, top 500 or so world. Bly and Clem obviously are playing like top 20 world. Clem a little bit higher than that. Well, I don't know, like, I don't really want to make any claims like that. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like... A mistake is very easily made, and it just takes one for the Zerg player to come back here. Alright. This is also one of those games where I can imagine Clem is keeping his cool quite well. But if you're a ladder hero, this is where you start panicking. Right? Like, this is where your heart has been beating at like 130 the entire game. Like 130 a minute. You've been playing with like your anxiety levels going through the roof for the last 16 minutes. It's very easy to accidentally, like, because of adrenaline and cortisol and all that, just make terrible decisions. Even though you technically shouldn't. I don't think Clem is gonna lose his cool, but I can imagine the average ladder hero will. These are stressful games to play. I still love the creep spread. But if we zoom out and we look at this objectively, we see 2-2 finished up for the Terran, going into 3-3. He's going into Ghosts. He's got himself 4 bases up and running, going into the 5th command center. He's ahead economically, he's ahead in upgrades, and he's ahead as far as army goes as well. I mean, Clem should still be the one that comes out ahead here. That being said, Bly has been looking for rabbits in hats for a while, and he's been digging, man, and it seems like he's slowly finding a rabbit. It's it's a little strange, but he's somehow making it happen. So there's a Baneling switch coming up right now. We're at Hive Tech, so apparently the +3 armor upgrade is going to come up here for Bly too. I actually said the Terran was ahead in upgrades, but I'm not entirely sure anymore. Good splits there, though, by Clem. Okay. I can't believe we're actually still here. Like, this started with a bunker rush against the Proxy Hatch. Now we're like 15 minutes later, and the game is actually still ongoing. Every year, I think StarCraft can't really get much better. Like, at the end of every year, I'm like, okay, well, we've peaked, right? It can't really get much better than this. Yet 2020 StarCraft is so much better than 2021 StarCraft. Or, sorry, well, I can't predict the future. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, in 2019, we weren't playing games like this. It just didn't happen. Skill level in SC2 is still continuously going up. And it almost feels like we are at a peak right now where, like, the quote-unquote best strategies are well known. And you're actually better off playing unorthodox strategies because it will, you know, throw your opponent for a loop. There it is. A lot of roaches on Burrow right now on top of the siege tanks. Sadly here for the Zerg player, Baneling speed is not done yet. So it makes it very difficult for those Banes to connect. God, Bly. I can imagine this works against so many people. He must squeeze out so many victories against players all the way up to like 7k MMR, which is everyone. Like, I think Clem is sitting at like 7.1k MMR or so right now, but that's an extremely exclusive club. There's literally like, I think half a dozen of people that have ever reached 7k MMR, you know? Alright. So, 5th command center. Acquired here by Clem. I can't believe Bly has actually made a game out of this. Like, it's so crazy. I've been feeling like he's been on the brink of losing for the last 15 minutes or so. Yet here we are. And there are certainly moments here where he could have gotten back into it, I think. Like, imagine if this was a Serral or a Raynor playing. I feel like we would have been in a similar scenario, except, yeah, we would have been at that 70 drone count for much longer already. If Bly would have droned up here much quicker, to say like 70 to 80 workers, I think he probably would have stabilized and made a game out of this that is actually... Oh, that would have actually made this much more reasonable. One of the problems you run into in this kind of scenario, oh my god, sadly that Infestor gets spotted, is that Terran is just, you know, ahead economically. And Terran already is so cost effective. That's the whole army? That's the whole army, yeah. That's everything. Normally ghosts are used to like snipe mostly like Ultralisks and EMP Infestors and all that, right? But I don't actually mind the idea of just sniping a couple of Ravagers as well. Ravagers are 100 minerals, 100 gas. They're not cheap. Getting a couple of those snipey boys in the mix, not a bad idea. Alright. Any fight that the Terran now wants to take, though, is going to be on creep. Man, I really wish that fungal growth was once again a route. Maybe that's some Zerg bias coming in, but... it does open up the door for a lot more of these builds. Like Infestor Ravager was a lot of fun. It was like a variety of a stretch you could play, so you actually had anti-air, even though you didn't actually make any anti-air units. I guess that's the purpose right now of those Corruptors, though. Besides also morphing into Brute Lords. He's buying time right now for the Brutes. They're gonna finish up here in about 30 seconds time. But there's already so many Ghosts into the mix. 13 drones end up going down. There's the Snipes. Clem does not want to see the Flippy Flappies. I mean, I think he's gonna see 3 of them over here. But that's very reasonable. He can deal with those, I think. There we go. There you go. One of them got sniped. The other one probably would have died as well if it wasn't for that transfuse. Okay. So where do we go now? Bly is driving this train, okay? I thought the train only had one, you know, thing to do, and that's follow the track, but it feels like, for some reason, Bly can make his own intersection somewhere. I feel like all the routes, though, like, once again, right? I feel like all the routes just lead towards a Terran victory. But I've been saying that for the last 17 minutes. And train conductor Bly is still going strong. He's still here. There's gonna be a game at some point, right? Where we have a start like this, and someone's gonna be behind the whole game long. And then all of the bases on their side of the map will be taken, and then they mine out and the game is still going on. That's gotta be... That's a win condition for Bly. If he manages to make the Terra mine out all their resources on their side of the map, which we are approaching within like 10 minutes, maybe 15. If he's still alive at that point, the game becomes very playable. I'm looking at this army though. There's no way, right? There's one queen for anti-air. There's the fungal growth. Couple corruptors are joining in the fray too. Ghosts are coming in from the back for some reason. There's a few Thors now joining in too. I think this is the moment. I think that this is the moment where Clem is gonna be able to obtain the victory in this best of 5 series. He's now almost doubling his opponent's supply. Bly is super broke. He's got decent upgrades, but no real army units anymore. 14 roaches are coming up right now. When you're making 14 roaches into 14 tanks, you know the game has become a bit desperate. Maybe if Terran runs out of scans and the Tunneling Claw can once again do its magic, but... Oh my god. Terran, by the way, just making 100% sure he's not gonna die. Adds on 3 additional factories and 2 additional command centers. Look at the CC count that he's got. Actually, 5 additional factories. Yeah, he's ready for a mech switch. He's like, okay, if you really are gonna stick in this game, and you're really gonna try and win with Roaches and Ravagers, I will just go full mech on you. See how you like that. Insane. There's the Tunneling Claws Roaches again. Are they really brave enough to unburrow? I guess they will. Oh my god. There we go. There you go! Yep! The problem is, single target damage of siege tanks is actually higher when they are unsieged than when they are sieged. So, yeah. The theory was there. The theory was there at the very least. But in the end, it is Clem who obtains the victory. And with that, ended up winning the ESL Open Cup number 50. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'm assuming you did if you made it all the way until the very end. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below, so that way this video may very well get picked up by the YouTube algorithm, and that way we can grow the channel and StarCraft 2 maybe a little bit more going into the new year as well. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.